I didn't realize my son had erased me from his digital world until I tried to wish him happy birthday and discovered I didn't exist to him anymore. Not on Facebook, not on Instagram, not even on WhatsApp. Every single platform showed the same thing. User not found, message failed to send, account doesn't exist. It was like I'd been digitally murdered by my own child. And when I finally understood why he'd done it, I wished I'd stayed dead to him. Because what he was hiding wasn't just a secret. It was a carefully constructed lie that had been draining my life savings for 3 years, and the person helping him do it was someone I would have died to protect. My name's Catherine, and I'm 52 years old. I raised my son Daniel alone after his father walked out when he was 6. I worked double shifts as a nurse for 17 years, wore the same winter coat for a decade, and ate ramen more nights than I'd like to admit. Also, Daniel could have the childhood I never did. Private school, soccer camps, a college fund that I built penny by penny. I wasn't a perfect mother, but I was a present one, and I thought that counted for something. Daniel was everything to me. My smart, sweet boy who used to leave me little drawings under my pillow, and who cried at dog food commercials. He was 24 when this story begins, working remotely as a graphic designer, living in an apartment 2 hours away in Portland. We talked every Sunday, or at least we used to. But I didn't know that while I was clinging to those weekly calls, he was systematically cutting me out of every other part of his life, building walls I couldn't see until it was far too late. The blocking started gradually. In March of 2022, I noticed he wasn't liking my Facebook posts anymore. I'd share pictures of my garden or articles about healthcare and nothing. No reaction. I told myself he was busy. Young people don't use Facebook much anyway, right? Then in May, I tried to send him a funny video on Instagram about a nurse dealing with difficult patients, and the message wouldn't deliver. I thought it was a glitch. I actually called my phone company and spent 40 minutes troubleshooting my data connection. The representative very patiently explained that my internet was fine. I felt stupid, but I still didn't understand. By August, I couldn't find his WhatsApp profile anymore. Our entire chat history was gone. When I tried to search for him, it said the account didn't exist. That's when the knot of anxiety started forming in my stomach, that mother's intuition that screams something is wrong even when you can't articulate what. I called his number directly. He answered on the 5th ring, sounding distracted. I asked him why I couldn't see him on WhatsApp anymore. He said he deleted the app because it was distracting him from work. His voice was flat, rehearsed. I asked about Instagram. He said the same thing, too distracting, too much pressure to post things. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. So I swallowed my doubts and said I understood, even though my hands were shaking as I hung up. Our Sunday calls continued, but they felt different. Hello. He'd answer my questions with one-word responses. When I asked how work was going, he'd say, fine. When I asked if he was eating well, he'd say, yeah. When I asked if he'd met anyone special, he'd say, not really, and then quickly redirect to ask about my week. I'd fill the silence with stories about my coworkers and my neighbor's cat and the leak in my bathroom, and he'd make vague listening sounds. I told myself this was normal. He was growing up, creating independence. I had to let him breathe. But what I didn't know was that he wasn't growing up, he was growing away, and someone was encouraging him to do it, whispering in his ear that I was the problem, that I was suffocating, that I needed to be cut off. The first Betrayal crack appeared in November, 4 days before Thanksgiving. I was expecting Daniel home for the holiday. We talked about it in October, and he'd said he'd try to make it work. I'd already bought a turkey and planned the entire menu around his favorite dishes. My mother's stuffing recipe, green bean casserole, the pumpkin pie he'd loved since he was 8. On Monday of that week, I texted him to confirm what time he'd arrive. The message showed as delivered but never read. I waited 6 hours, then called. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again that night. Voicemail. Tuesday morning, I called from my work phone in case his phone wasn't recognizing my number. He answered immediately. Before I could even say hello, he said he wasn't coming for Thanksgiving. His voice was cold, businesslike. I asked why, and he said he had plans with friends. I asked what friends, and he said I wouldn't know them. I asked why he hadn't told me sooner, and he said he'd been meaning to but forgot. Forgot. Like I was a dentist appointment he'd let slip his mind. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I kept my voice steady. I said I understood and that I hoped he had a good time. He said, "Okay, thanks," and hung up before I could say I loved him. I spent Thanksgiving alone, staring at a table set for two, eating stuffing that tasted like sawdust. December came and went. He didn't come home for Christmas either. Said he was swamped with work projects and couldn't take the time off. I sent him gifts, a nice sweater, a coffee table book about graphic design, a framed photo of us from when he was 10, both of us covered in flour after baking cookies. He texted a short thanks 3 days after Christmas. Didn't call, didn't video chat, just thanks. January was his birthday. My baby turned 25, and I wanted to do something special. I couldn't see him in person, so I decided to post a heartfelt message on his Facebook wall like I did every year, a collection of baby photos and a long caption about how proud I was of the man he'd become. I logged into Facebook, navigated to his profile, and that's when the floor dropped out from under me. His profile didn't exist. Not deactivated. Not private. Gone. When I searched his name, nothing came up. I searched through my friends list. He wasn't there. I opened Messenger and scrolled through our old conversations, but when I clicked on his name, it said Facebook user with a blank profile picture. He'd blocked me. Completely. Deliberately. And in that moment, staring at that empty gray circle where my son's face used to be, I realized that I wasn't just losing my child. I'd already lost him, and I didn't even know when it had happened. I called him immediately, my heart hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. He didn't answer. I called again, and again. On the fourth try, he picked up, and I could hear the annoyance in his breathing before he even spoke. I asked him directly, "Did you block me on Facebook?" There was a long pause. Then, quietly, he said yes. I asked why. My voice cracked on the word. He said he needed space, that I was too involved in his life, that every time he posted something, I'd comment or share it or tag him in something related, and it was embarrassing, that his friends made fun of him for having a mom who was so active on social media, that he felt suffocated. I stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, and felt something inside me break. I'd only ever wanted to be part of his life, to show him I cared, and somehow, caring had become a crime. I apologized. I told him I didn't realize I was making him uncomfortable, that I'd give him all the space he needed, that I just wanted him to be happy. He said okay, and hung up. "No, I love you." "No, I'm sorry too." "Just okay." I didn't post anything on social media for 3 months after that. I was terrified of doing something else wrong, of pushing him further away. Our Sunday calls became bi-weekly, then monthly. By April, we were barely speaking. But while I was walking on eggshells, trying desperately not to lose the last shred of connection I had to my son, he was busy spending the money I'd sacrificed everything to save, and the person holding the shovel was someone I trusted more than anyone in the world. In June, I got a notification from my bank about unusual account activity. I logged in and saw a withdrawal of $1,500 from my savings account. I immediately called the bank, thinking it was fraud. The representative pulled up the transaction details and informed me that the withdrawal had been authorized through Venmo, linked to my account 2 years prior. I told her I didn't use Venmo. She asked if anyone else had access to my banking information. I said no. She suggested I check my email for confirmation messages. I opened my email and searched for Venmo. There were dozens of notifications, going back 26 months. Small transfers at first, $50 here, $100 there. Then larger amounts, $300, $700, $1,500, all sent to the same account. Dear Riley_design. Daniel Riley. My son's full name. My hands went numb. I scrolled through the emails, adding up the amounts in my head, but I kept losing count because my vision was blurring. I finally opened a calculator and went through each transaction methodically. The total came to $41,700, over $40,000, from the college fund I'd built, from the savings account I'd opened when he was born. Money I'd earned by working overtime shifts and skipping meals and driving a car with a broken heater through 5 winters. I called him. It went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I sent a text. "We need to talk about the money you've been taking from my account." It delivered but wasn't read. I waited 3 hours, pacing my living room, my mind spinning through explanations. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone hacked his account. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. He finally called me back at 11 that night. I answered on the first ring. I asked him if he'd been taking money from my savings account. He was quiet for a moment, then said yes, but that he could explain. I asked him to explain then. He said he'd been going through a rough time financially, that his freelance work had dried up, that he'd been struggling to pay rent, and didn't want to worry me. He said he'd been planning to pay me back, that it was temporary, that he was sorry. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But something in his voice felt off. Too smooth. Too prepared. I asked him why he hadn't just asked me for help. He said he knew I didn't have much and didn't want to be a burden. I told him taking my money without asking was worse than being a burden, that he could have destroyed my financial security, that I'd worked my entire life for that savings. He apologized again, said he knew he'd messed up, said he'd start paying me back immediately. I asked him how he'd linked my bank account to his Venmo, without me knowing. There was another pause, longer this time. Then he said my sister had helped him set it up. And that's when the second crack split wide open. Because my sister Emily was the person I'd trusted with everything, the person who'd helped me raise Daniel after his father left, the person who had access to my financial information because she was listed as my emergency contact on all my accounts. I hung up on Daniel and immediately called Emily. She answered cheerfully, asking what was up. Asked her if she'd helped Daniel connect my bank account to his Venmo. The cheerfulness drained from her voice. She said yes, but that Daniel had told her I'd asked him to set it up, so I could send him money more easily. She said she didn't realize it was a secret. I told her I'd never asked for that Daniel had been stealing from me for over 2 years. She went completely silent. Then, in a small voice, she asked how much. I told her. She gasped. She said she had no idea, that Daniel had told her I was helping him with rent occasionally, that she'd never thought to question it because she assumed we'd discussed it. I wanted to believe her. Emily had been my rock through every hard moment of my life. She'd co-signed my first apartment lease. She'd watched Daniel every weekend when I worked double shifts. She'd talked me through panic attacks and breakups and my mother's funeral. We told each other everything. Or so I thought. Because what I didn't know yet was that Emily had been lying to me too, and her lie was so much worse than Daniel's because it wasn't about money. It was about control. It was about shaping my son into someone who would choose her over me. I told Emily I needed time to process everything and hung up. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my bank statements, trying to understand how my life had fallen apart so quietly. By morning, I'd made a decision. I called the bank and froze my savings account. I removed Emily as my emergency contact. I changed all my passwords. Then I called Daniel and told him we needed to meet in person to discuss repayment. He agreed, reluctantly, and we set a date for the following Saturday. That week felt like walking through fog. I moved through my shifts at the hospital on autopilot, smiling at patients and checking vitals while my mind churned through worst-case scenarios. I kept trying to make sense of it. Daniel had always been responsible with money. He'd worked part-time jobs through college. He'd never asked me for handouts. What had changed? Saturday came. I drove 2 hours to Portland, my stomach twisted in knots. Daniel had suggested we meet at a coffee shop near his apartment. I arrived 15 minutes early and ordered tea I couldn't drink. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. His hair was longer, unkempt. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked haunted. We sat across from each other, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked him to tell me the truth about what had been happening. All of it. He stared at his coffee cup and started talking. He said that 3 years ago, he'd made some bad investments based on advice from a friend. cryptocurrency, NFTs, things I didn't understand. He'd lost a lot of money. He'd panicked and started borrowing from the wrong people to cover his losses. He'd gotten in over his head. He said he'd been using my money to pay off debts and keep himself afloat. I asked why he hadn't come to me. He said he was ashamed, that he didn't want me to know he'd failed, that he thought he could fix it on his own. Asked him about the blocking, about cutting me out of his social media. He said Emily had suggested it. She told him that I was too emotionally dependent on him, that I was using him to fill the void his father had left, that he needed to establish boundaries or I'd never let him grow up. She'd said the blocking was for his own mental health. And that's when the third crack appeared, because Emily hadn't just helped him access my money. She'd been actively coaching him to distance himself from me, to see me as the problem, to cut me out of his life piece by piece. I felt sick. I asked Daniel if Emily had known about the money troubles. He hesitated, then nodded. He said she'd known about the debts from the beginning, that she'd been the one who suggested using my Venmo, that she'd said I wouldn't notice because I never checked my bank statements carefully, and that even if I did, I wouldn't confront him because I'd be too afraid of pushing him away. She'd been right about that last part. For months, I'd been too terrified to push, too desperate to hold on to whatever scraps of relationship I had left. I asked him why Emily would do that. He looked at me with something like pity and said, "She wanted to be the one you relied on. She wanted to be the good one." I didn't understand. I asked him to explain. He said that for years, Emily had resented the relationship Daniel and I had, that she'd never had kids of her own and had always felt like an outsider in our little family unit, that when Daniel started having problems, Emily saw an opportunity to become his primary support system. She'd positioned herself as the cool aunt who understood him, who didn't judge him, who gave him space. Everything I apparently wasn't. She'd told him stories about me, exaggerated things I'd said or done, made me sound overbearing and controlling, convinced him that my love was suffocating, that he'd never be his own person if he didn't cut ties. And Daniel, drowning in debt and shame, had believed her. But the worst part wasn't that Emily had manipulated my son. It was that she'd done it while sitting across from me at Sunday dinners, hugging me at holidays, telling me everything would be okay, while actively working to destroy the one relationship I valued most in the world. I sat in that coffee shop, listening to my son tell me how my own sister had weaponized his vulnerability against me, and I felt something inside me die, not break.
D.
The part of me that believed in the fundamental goodness of people. The part that assumed family meant safety. I asked Daniel how much he still owed. He said $18,000. I asked him when the last payment to Emily had been. He looked confused and said he'd never paid Emily anything. I asked him what he meant. He said Emily hadn't loaned him money. She'd just helped him access mine. But that didn't make sense. I pulled out my phone and opened my bank statement. I scrolled through the Venmo transactions, and that's when I saw it. Mixed in with the payments to DeRiley_design were payments to another account, EmilyR_82. Not many, maybe one every few months. But the amounts were significant. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 once. I showed Daniel the screen. His face went white. He said he didn't know anything about those, that he'd never authorized payments to Emily, that his Venmo had only ever received money from me, never sent it. And that's when the fourth crack split everything wide open, because Emily hadn't just been helping Daniel steal from me. She'd been stealing from me too, using the access she'd created under the guise of helping her nephew, and Daniel had been too buried in his own guilt to notice. I called Emily right there in the coffee shop. She answered with her usual warm hello. Asked her why there were Venmo payments from my account to hers. She laughed nervously and said she didn't know what I was talking about. I read her the dates and amounts. The line went quiet. Then she said, "Catherine, I can explain." I told her to explain then. She said that she'd occasionally borrowed small amounts when she was short on rent or needed help with bills, and that she'd always intended to pay me back. She said she didn't think I'd mind since we were sisters, and I'd always said I'd help her if she needed it. I told her that taking money without asking wasn't help, it was theft. She got defensive. Said I was being dramatic, that family helps family, that she'd done so much for me over the years, and this was how I repaid her. I told her she'd manipulated my son and stolen thousands of dollars from me. She said I was twisting things, that Daniel had made his own choices, that I was looking for someone to blame because I couldn't accept that my son didn't want to be close to me anymore. That sentence hit like a physical blow. I hung up. Daniel was staring at me from across the table, and for the first time in months, I saw my son, my actual son, not the stranger who'd been avoiding me. He looked devastated. He said he didn't know Emily had been taking money too, that he'd thought it was all him, that he felt like an idiot. I told him we'd both been idiots, that Emily had played us against each other, and we'd let her. But the deepest crack, the one that shattered everything into pieces too small to glue back together, came 3 days later when I discovered that Emily hadn't just been stealing money. She'd been planning to take everything. I filed a police report. I didn't want to, but Daniel insisted. He said Emily needed to face consequences, that what she'd done was criminal. The officer who took my statement was sympathetic, but explained that financial abuse cases involving family members were complicated. He said I'd need documentation, bank records, communications, anything that proved Emily had accessed my accounts without permission. I spent that evening digging through my emails, looking for evidence. That's when I found the forwarded message. It was from Emily's email address to her own, sent 14 months earlier. The subject line was Catherine's estate documents. I'd never sent her any estate documents. I didn't even have formal estate documents, just a simple will I'd written 10 years ago naming Daniel as my beneficiary. I opened the forwarded email and felt my blood turn to ice. It was from my bank, sent 2 years prior, confirming updates to my account beneficiary information. I clicked through to the attachment. According to the document, I'd changed my primary beneficiary from Daniel to Emily. I had never made that change. I'd never even considered making that change. I called my bank immediately. The representative confirmed that the beneficiary modification had been processed in June of 2021, submitted through their online portal using my login credentials. I told her I didn't submit it. She said the IP address matched my home address. I said that was impossible. She suggested someone with access to my home and computer might have done it. Emily had a key to my house. Emily knew all my passwords because I'd shared them with her years ago when she'd helped me set up online banking. Emily had been to my house dozens of times when I wasn't home. And suddenly, everything clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Emily hadn't been helping Daniel out of kindness. She'd been isolating me from him so that when I eventually died, she'd inherit everything, and there'd be no one left who cared enough about me to question it. I felt like I was going to vomit. I hung up with the bank and immediately called Daniel. I told him what I'd found. He didn't speak for a long time. Then, in a voice that sounded hollow and broken, he said, "She asked me about your health a lot, about whether you'd been to the doctor, about whether you'd mentioned feeling sick." I asked him when. He said it had started around the same time Emily had suggested he distance himself from me. She'd framed it as concern, asking if I seemed depressed, if I was taking care of myself, if he thought I might do something drastic. She'd planted seeds in his mind that I was unstable, that I might hurt myself, that he needed to protect himself emotionally in case something happened to me. She'd been preparing him for my death. Not hoping for it, necessarily, but preparing for it. Making sure that when it came, he'd be distant enough that he wouldn't question why everything went to her instead of him. I asked Daniel if he'd known about the beneficiary change. He swore he hadn't. He said Emily had told him I'd updated my will to split things between them both, that it was only fair since she'd been like a second mother to him. He'd believed her, because why wouldn't he? She was his aunt. She loved him. Except she didn't love him. She loved what he represented, a tool to get what she wanted. And what she wanted was my life. Not to live it, but to profit from it. I changed my beneficiary back to Daniel that night. I changed every password I had. I had my locks rekeyed. I blocked Emily's number. And then I sat down and wrote her a letter because I needed her to know that I knew. I told her exactly what she'd done. Not just the money, but the manipulation. the isolation, the planning. I told her that I'd reported her to the police, that I'd documented everything, and that even if she faced no legal consequences, she'd have to live with the knowledge that she'd tried to destroy her own sister for money. I told her she was no longer welcome in my life, and that if she ever tried to contact Daniel again, I'd pursue every legal avenue available to me. I mailed it and felt nothing.
No anger.
No sadness. Just empty. Because the truth was, I hadn't just lost my sister. I'd realized she'd never really been my sister at all. She'd been an actress, playing a role for decades, waiting for her moment to cash in. Emily never responded to the letter. She didn't fight the police report, didn't try to justify herself, didn't even attempt to apologize. She just disappeared, blocked me on everything, moved to a different city, cut off contact with everyone who knew us both, like she'd never existed. The police investigation went nowhere. The prosecutor said that while what Emily had done was morally reprehensible, proving criminal intent would be nearly impossible. She could claim she'd had permission, that there had been misunderstandings, that it was a family matter. Without clear evidence of forgery or explicit theft, there was nothing they could do. I never got the money back. Not from Emily, not from Daniel. Daniel tried, he got a second job, sent me small payments when he could, but $18,000 is an impossible mountain when you're also trying to rebuild your own life. I told him to stop. Told him I'd rather have my son than my savings. And I meant it. It took almost a year for us to repair our relationship. Therapy helped. Twice monthly calls that gradually became weekly, then twice weekly. Visits that started as awkward coffee meetups and slowly transformed back into real conversations. He apologized 1,000 times. I apologized too, for not seeing what was happening, for not being someone he felt safe coming to, for letting Emily drive a wedge between us without fighting harder to remove it. Last month, Daniel drove home for Thanksgiving, sat at my table, ate my mother's stuffing recipe, helped me wash dishes while we talked about his new job and his new girlfriend and his plans for the future. He hugged me before he left, long and tight, and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom, for all of it." I told him I forgave him, and I do, because he was a kid in trouble who got preyed on by someone who should have protected him. That's not his fault. But Emily, I don't forgive her. I don't think I ever will. People ask me sometimes if I miss her. My sister, my best friend, the person who was supposed to have my back forever. The truth is, I don't miss her. I miss the person I thought she was. But that person never existed. What I've learned from this whole nightmare is that the people who can hurt you most are the ones you trust most completely. Daniel didn't block me to be cruel. He blocked me because someone he trusted told him it was the right thing to do. Emily didn't steal from me out of desperation. She stole from me because she believed she deserved what I had more than I did. And me? I kept giving people the benefit of the doubt long past the point where doubt should have been impossible because I wanted to believe that love was enough, that family meant something, that trust was sacred. I don't believe those things anymore. Not blindly anyway, but I do believe in second chances. I believe in rebuilding. I believe that Daniel and I will be okay. Different than before, scarred but stronger. And I believe that somewhere out there, Emily is living with the weight of what she did. Maybe that's punishment enough. Maybe it isn't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. My son unblocked me on everything last week. I can see his Instagram now, his Facebook, his entire digital life. He posts pictures of his art and his friends and his adventures. And sometimes, every once in a while, he posts a picture of us, mother and son, together again. I don't comment on everything anymore. I don't overshare or tag him excessively. I learned that lesson. But when I do comment, he responds with hearts and inside jokes and "love you, Mom." And that's enough. That's more than enough. Because at the end of the day, I didn't lose my son to the digital world. I almost lost him to someone who used the digital world as a weapon, but I got him back. And that's the only happy ending I need. Every story leaves a mark. If this one touched you, let the telling tree grow by your like and subscribe.